Welcome to Sit Down Stand Up with John Malkin, the show where comedy meets conversation. Get ready for a ride full of laughs, stories from the stage, and possibly a few surprises. And now, here's your host, John Malkin.
Oh, we are live with Sit Down Stand Up. I am your host, John Malkin. So good to be with you. This is the show that I call the show before Christmas because Christmas is coming up. And I will not be doing a show next Tuesday because, well, it's my show and I don't want to. So, this will be our last show of 2024, and we've been doing this for 6, 7 months, and I've just been having such a fun time, and I am so honored and privileged to have my last show of 2024 with a really, really funny guy who's got such incredible, some great backstory, which we're going to dive into. Now, and I'm going to introduce him in a second because he is from Mexico, Maine. Okay, not Mexico, Mexico. He's in a small town, a small mill town called Mexico, Maine, and he's been doing comedy for some time. He took some time off. He's back, and he is a great dude. Please welcome Zac Calden. Zac.
Hey man, how we doing?
Good to see you, my friend. Now, I'm looking at you. Now, the people listening to us right now, of course, when the show is completed, and we'll edit it, and then we'll put it on my YouTube page at John Malkin, and then they will get to see us in the flesh with the video and all that. But you looks like you are in your car or a spaceship.
Yeah, my car also doubles as a spaceship at times, so we take off.
Well, are you maybe you're on one of those drones that people are spotting all over the place right now, and no
No,
one knows what's in there.
I've seen the memes where it's got like the naked guy on it when you zoom in, so it's like I don't want to be on no drone.
Ah, man, too funny. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. Last show of 2024. I'm honored to have you on.
I'm
Thank you,
honored
sir.
honored to be on here, man. I didn't realize it was the last show of the year. That's great.
Last show, yeah. I guess we could have done it next Tuesday, but I just decided not to. So,
I don't
because
blame you.
I just figured, who wants to do a show during Christmas week? But
Yeah.
anyways, so man, so much to unpack with you because it's so funny. You sent me your bio, and I'm reading it, and it says you were born and raised in a small mill town in Mexico, and then it said, comma, Maine. I'm like, wait a minute, is that a typo? No, and then I Googled it. You're born and raised, and actually right now you are in Mexico, Maine. Now it's a mill town. What kind of mill? What are they milling up in Mexico, Maine?
Well, it's a paper mill, so they take the trees and turn them into pulp and turn it into like fancy magazine paper, I guess.
Ooh,
I mean,
people
they
still
took
do that
people.
stuff?
I guess people still make magazines. I know
Wow.
this company took over from China and like it already smelled really bad. Now it just smells even worse because they don't follow the same regulations as us Americans. So it's like they'll
Oh,
just pay the fines because they have so much money. So
well, and
it's just
they also probably add MSG to the paper, right?
we speaking of MSG, one of the best Chinese food places in town in the state, Mexico, Maine, but not a single
Really?
Mexican restaurant.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense. That's
Right.
so fun. You'd think it'd be somewhat popular if you had a Mexican restaurant in Mexico, but I don't know. Something to think about. So, you've been doing. You sent me some of your clips, man, and you are funny. First of all, and don't take this the wrong way, but you've got you got a great look to you. You look like a guy who probably lives up in upstate Maine, man.
Yeah.
You got the beard, you got the mustache, you got the hat. You're looking like you're chopping wood, and and you got a great stage presence and all that, and you tell some really funny stuff. And now, how did you get? First of all, how long have you been doing comedy, and how did you get into comedy?
I started doing comedy probably 2014. I got into it through doing sketch comedy in this show called Friday Night Live at
Oh no
an
way!
old
In
church.
Mexico, in by you,
What's that?
in Mexico, Maine, up by
In
you,
Rumford. It's the neighboring town.
neighbor town.
But
Okay.
there's an old church that this guy who's a magician, he works in the paper mill. He bought an old church, turned it into like a function hall, and then upstairs is a theater. So every year they do a show called Friday Night Live in the theater. And I know his daughter. So I saw him at the bar one time and was just like, hey, how do I get into this show? And he tells it as he told me to show up on such and such a day thinking he'd never see me. And then I showed up. And he
You
hasn't been able
showed
to get rid of me since.
Oh my God! So
So
so they still do it, and you still go up there and do you still doing this?
yeah, we still do it once every year, and usually in the spring. It takes like a year to write. We just base it around Saturday Night Live, kind of with just different sketches, but it's all live, all on stage. We do it 4 nights, and it's all the same show, but every
That
night's
is
different with live theater.
yeah, I'll bet. Now it's scripted, right? It's not
Yeah.
improv. I mean, it's all scripted out.
Yeah, so we take the year to write and rehearse it, but in doing that, he started doing an open mic for the people in this town,
Got it.
and that got me my first experience in doing comedy like stand up.
Right.
And then in doing that, I got the itch and just started traveling to Portland, which is an hour and a half away, but that's the scene, and met a guy, Ian Stewart, who's like pretty big in the Maine comedy scene. Him and
Okay.
James the Burge have a Welcome to Maine, it's called. Look that up. It's good stuff. But
Okay.
I met him and then started doing his open mics and doing showcases with him. And then I got a showcase in Rhode Island and I was like, man, this is fun. Like, I love comedy. And then I totaled my car. So I was like, oh, man. Put the
Wait,
brakes on for that.
how'd you total your car?
Well, I had 3 ticks on my leg and I was driving down a windy road and I found them one at a time. And didn't stop driving and I just went right off the road into a ditch. It was bad.
Can I tell you something? Only in Maine, man.
Yeah, the ticks, they were in the road.
Chicago's not going. Yeah, I had ticks on my leg, and that's
Yeah,
it. Only in Maine would one crash their car due to ticks.
yeah, they're nasty, man. You don't want them in bed.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Well, normally if I found ticks, I would pull over, but you're like, why pull over?
Right, I can get them off, but there was a turn coming, and I just went straight.
Oh man, that's too freaking funny. Too funny. So are you a tour? I mean, you do most of your comedy around the region. I mean, like you're saying, you're going to Portland and you got in Mexico, Maine, and all that, and in Rhode Island. Do you come down and towards like New York City, like into the Boston area? You get out and about.
I haven't yet, but I mean, I'm more than willing to. Like, I just haven't got out that far yet, you know?
Okay. Okay. Well, I thought I saw on your bio. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you do a show with Pat Oates?
Yeah, years and years and years ago. That was the one in
Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Okay, yeah. So I know Pat. I DJ on Sundays at the Weeby 108, which is a radio station here in Connecticut, and Pat is also a DJ and also runs a room at the Comics Roadhouse. So he's a good dude. So
Yeah,
I saw that. I'm like, we
he
mutual friends.
he put out there that he was doing a showcase, and I thought it was in Portland, so I just put my name out there, and he's like, "Can you come to Rhode Island?" And I happen to have a cousin who lives in Rhode Island, so I was like,
Too funny.
"Yeah, actually, I can make that happen." But I wore shorts on stage, and when he got up after me, he made sure to make a joke about how you don't wear shorts on stage.
That's too freaking funny, man. But you know what? And again, you're in Maine, man. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, a guy wore
You can do whatever you want.
he wore thong flip flops and board shorts to an open mic in like September. I was like, Rob, you're an animal.
I love it. I love it. So now you took some. You're living out in Maine and all that, and you and I were talking before we hopped on. And this is one of these things where you have a small town. I'm going to guess there's probably 2,800, 3,000 people in Mexico. I'm just throwing a number out.
Yeah,
Probably
probably maybe less.
maybe less. Okay, and a lot of people work for the mill, and it's like you see this like in the movies, and the people who are born and raised in these small towns. They kind of stay in the small towns, and it's like a cougar song. They Mellencamp song, and then they die in a small town.
Yeah,
But you got out because we were chatting, and you bolted west to Colorado.
yeah. So
Now,
I have an
what brought you
uncle.
out there, and when did you go?
I have an uncle who lives in Manitou Springs, and he
All
brought
right.
me. I'm a snowboarder. Like at heart,
Okay.
I'm a snowboarder. By trade, I'm a carpenter, and I want to be
All
a
right.
comedian. So if I could get paid to snowboard, I would do that. But I'm
Right.
not that good.
Right.
I just have fun. But so he took me out to visit, and we hit 4 or 5 different mountains while I was out there. And like I've had a history of working at ski resorts in the past. So as soon as I got back, I just fell in love with this one place out there. So I put in for a job, got the job with housing for a year, and just
Oh, no.
don't have a wife, don't have kids. I was like, let's do it. So I
That's awesome.
just packed up my stuff and flew out there and spent 4 years living in the mountains of Colorado snowboarding.
So that sucked.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was so cool. I didn't do any comedy out there because I didn't have a vehicle because it was all public transportation. So I could have been going to Denver and doing mics and this and that, but I just stayed in the mountains.
Oh man. Well, you wrote. You probably had a lot to look at. A
Oh
lot to write about.
man,
Now, what years was this when you were out there in Colorado?
2018 to 2022.
Okay, so you just got back a couple years ago, and then so you're out in Colorado. You're doing your thing, having a great time. Now, at that point, you could have gone. I guess you could go anywhere, but you went back home, which is so cool. I mean, you went back to your small town. I mean, is that what was the allure to bring you back? Because you wanted. I'm assuming you wanted to get out, try something different. But then here you are. You're back, which is
Well,
again.
the old mental health wasn't doing the best out there with nobody around. Like
Uh,
all my family's back here, and my niece and nephew
oh,
were like 5 when I moved out there, and the youngest one is just born. So now they're like 11. So yeah, when I left, they were kids. When I came back to visit, they were just growing up, and I was like, I should be home. You know, I
that's
can always go visit, and I mean, I could take a year and go there, a year and go there, but Colorado was too expensive anyway. Everything was like, yeah, I couldn't stay there. $1,000 for a bedroom. I was like, geez,
for a bedroom.
yeah, it was like Summit County, ski country, USA.
Wow.
Like,
Were there at least mirrors on the ceiling? I mean, it was at least premium, or I mean, did they have the
no,
machine
no.
you order in and they give you no, nothing? Okay.
And you had like all your roommates were gonna have dreadlocks.
Oh. That is funny, man. So tell me about some of the. So what do you like to talk about? I saw some of your stuff, and you had this great bit you were doing about, which I thought was really funny because you had this great delivery punchline about. I think you were talking to a friend of yours. You were talking about someone who had 4 holes or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like I
I was
just came up with that one because one night I was driving and I was getting high beams coming at me, and then the car behind me flashed their high beams before I could. So I was like blind, and double penetration came to mind, which I then remembered like all 4 holes means the 4th hole is on the guy. So I was like, that's pretty good for a joke.
That is funny. People like that, man. People like that. What
Yeah.
else do you like to talk about when you're doing comedy? I mean, are you writing from the heart? Are you self-deprecating? Do you write about? I mean, you probably have just a lot. I mean, you could just build a whole show based on. I mean, you're doing comedy in Mexico, Maine, but I mean, you could be very self-deprecating about living in a small mill town. There's probably just so much to talk about,
Yeah,
especially bringing outside of your small town. But what kind of floats your boat when you're talking about when you're writing your comedy?
well, it's mostly like pulling from real life experiences. Stuff like I met Dog the Bounty Hunter in a grocery store under the influence of things that are not legal out in Colorado.
And then
And
you posted a picture of that, I think, on your Facebook page. Did you not?
yeah.
That was
And I
awesome.
told him what was up, and he was not too stoked about it, but I was like, man, like that really happened. I can make that into a joke. In like years of doing carpentry, I've worked with some wild cats. So I got stories from that for days. Like the guys I've worked with up here, man, they have stories that they've told me. So I'm like, yeah. Just
Now, was he in the hood looking for somebody as part of the bounty, or was he? How did you run into Dog?
well, he was in the grocery store and he walked by me and I was like, yo, you're Dog the Bounty Hunter. And he says, shut up, and keeps walking. So
He
I'm
did not.
like, no way. I'm like, that was definitely him, right? Like, and then when I was doing self checkout, he came walking from like the pharmacy and he's staring at me and he says, well, I guess you want a picture then. And I'm like, dude, hell yeah.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
Dog the Bounty Hunter was like a pit bull. He was not. He was.
He didn't
He
want
was not.
people to know it was him. He was just in and out, you know?
Well, it's not like, I mean, he's just, he's so unique looking. I mean, you look at that guy. Now, I didn't watch a lot of his shows, but if I saw him, I'd be like, yeah, that's Dog the Bounty. I mean,
Right.
it's not like he's doing anything to hide himself or like put a nose and glasses on.
No. He still had his nice long mullet. He had the fingerless gloves. He had sunglasses. He had feathers coming out of his hair. Like, that was Dog the Bounty Hunter. So I just used the joke as like, that's the reason I moved back to Colorado, because he told me he'd see me again, or I moved back from. I'm like, Dog the Bounty Hunter said, I'll see you again. So that's why I came back to Maine. I'm on the run.
Hopefully you don't see him when he's like looking for you because you committed a crime and like you need to collect bail or something like that.
No, I
You
hope
need to
the
collect
next time I
bail.
see him, he's coming on stage after I tell that joke somewhere. You know what I mean?
That's too funny. So are you constantly, Zach? Are you constantly writing?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what's your process? I mean, how do you write stuff, and then where do you put it? Do you kind of keep it in your head? You got a little bit Bible by your bed, or
Yep.
how do you catalog your comedy?
Well, I have a notebook next to my bed and then one in the car because that's where I usually do all my thinking.
Yes.
So I'll just be watching TV or something at night. And like I've been watching a lot of the first 48 lately. And that's a good show, right? But it's also a terrible show if you actually pay attention to the acting. Like it's the worst. So like I just roll over, grab the notebook, and start writing what I'm watching, and it just writes itself on that show, you know. And like my life,
Oh, man. No
I'm
kidding.
doing carpentry. I fell, I took a wrong step and fell backwards 12 feet into a hole and walked away. Like I've been
That's
doing
comedy.
carpentry for 20 years and never have I taken the backwards plunge, but it finally happened,
It
which led
finally
me
happened,
to think about how much other dumb stuff have I done. So like I'm
right?
coming up with a whole bit about like I've done this, I've done that, you know, just life experiences can be funny if you make them that way.
Well, I'm hoping that in your routine, you've got a little or part of your set, you got a little bit of material on how you crashed your car trying to get 3 ticks off your leg.
Oh
That's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, definitely. Like I was coming from a greenhouse that I was weed whacking around, and lo and behold, there was 3 ticks on my leg. Then me and my dad went back
Yeah,
up to try to. We got his buddy who owns a tow truck, and we're like, "Can
right.
you come pull it out?" And it's down like a 12-foot drop. So he gets it as far as he can, which just made it way more noticeable. So now we're driving up and down this road trying to find a bigger vehicle to pull it out of the ditch. And by the time we made like a third pass, the cops were there, and I was like, we should probably go talk to them. And my car was not legal at all. No inspection, no registration, no insurance. So I had to pay a lot of money for that one.
Oh, man, it would have been a lot easier just to pull those ticks off if you pull it. Lesson learned, right?
Yeah, pull over if there's ticks on your leg, man. Don't let them make you crash a car.
That's too freaking funny. Now, where if people wanted to find you, I mean, I guess they could find you in Mexico. Actually, if they pull into Mexico, Maine, they probably will see you because it's probably what is it like? Does Mexico, Maine have like one main kind of drag, and then
Route
everything
2, yep.
kind of okay? So
Route
I'm
2
sure they could
goes right
find
through town.
you. All right. Is it
Then there's
one
little
stop at
neighborhoods
a
all
time?
over the place. I mean,
Any
there's a few
stoplights, or you
stores.
just driving? You driving straight through, or is there a stoplight?
There's a slow light. There's a stoplight by Walmart. There's a
All
slow
right.
light by the mill.
All
And
right.
there's a stoplight in town. But we have a Walmart. I mean, we're pretty high
Ooh,
class. The
wow.
Walmart is actually right next to the sewage treatment plant. So, you know,
Perfect.
it's a good
Perfect.
place for it.
That's funny. Wait, you just said that the mill, when we were chatting before we hopped on, the mill, which is a paper mill, somehow spewed out some liquid sludge.
Yeah.
And they claim what did they say about it?
It's called black liquor, which in my day was delicious. You know what I mean? Back when I was
Jack
still actively
Daniels.
drunk. Black liquor,
Yeah.
I would have went down and scooped that snow up and just ate it. But they said not to, so I didn't.
So
But yeah, I guess it's like part of the paper making process. Something went haywire and it spewed all over the town, and the snow went from pristine and white to brown, which if you
oh
spend
man,
enough time in Rumford, you're going to change from white to brown anyway.
that's so freaking funny. Well, I don't even know that. It's like I know nothing about making paper, but I would not have thought that black sludge comes out of making paper. But what do I know? That probably comes from the trees. It's like the leftover stuff from when they trim all the stuff. I don't know. What do I
Right.
know,
I
right?
mean, they're squishing trees down to nothing to make paper. Something's got to come out of it, I guess. It must be black
Yeah,
liquor.
it's got to
Not
be
black
black liquor.
licorice, even though it's probably tastes better.
That's too funny. All right, so where can people find you? What's your social and everything? What's your
Uh,
tag? Everything.
I'm on Instagram, Z Calden, Calden.
Okay.
Uh, TikTok, Zac Calden Comedy.
All right.
And then
And
Facebook's
Facebook,
just my name, picture of Dog the
Zach
Bounty
Calden.
Hunter.
That's where I saw it. Now, you have any upcoming shows? Do you want to plug and talk about?
Well, there's just some mics I want to shout out and that go on up here, like my boys from the Final Bistro, Sean and Gabe, the guys from the Comedy
Nice.
Mill, Buzz, Nate, and Paul, Ian Stewart and James. I jump on a lot of shows with Ian because he just does them all over the place. My next show that I'm booked on, I think, is next month, the 11th, at Great Falls Comedy. That's Leonard Kimball and Nick Gordon.
Very
A couple
cool.
of good guys. And
Very
then
cool.
I want to shout out a couple dudes. Pete Angelo. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's a killer based out of like Connecticut. He's actually in China right now.
Oh, wow.
He's he's got people out there, but he booked some shows, so he's like calling it his world tour. Real stoked for him. And then my
Good.
boy Dick Ruse down in Florida. He's a killer too. Check him out.
All right. Nick Cruz. What was it? What was the Connecticut guy's name again? Peter
Pete
Angelo?
Angelo. He was just
Pete
on Kill Tony not too long ago.
All
Like he
right.
got on, I think he was down there for Skankfest, and he got on Kill Tony.
Oh, very cool, man. Very cool. Now, are you playing? Are you submitting stuff to some festivals? Because I think they have a festival in Portland, Maine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just actually was on that. I volunteered to just work the doors. That's what got me back on stage, really, because I
Got it.
volunteered to like work the doors, and then they knew I had been on stage, so they asked me if I would host. So I hosted a show, and then someone dropped out of a showcase, so they're like, "You want to do 10?" So I did 10,
Good for you.
and
Oh,
it went well. Then I met a lot of people that I just talked about. Like that's when I met all of them, and Comedy Mill in
nice.
Biddeford. Biddo. I mean, you'll hear a lot of bad talk about that place, but it's not that bad. But those guys really put together a good open mic on every Wednesday, and they were all
Good
really
deal.
cool. Me and one of their regulars, Bobby, actually worked the door together, and we're both old school hardcore music kids, so we just bonded over that. And he actually hosted the mic, not a couple. The last one I went to, he was the host, and he's a little dude, but he's diabetic, so he's just got so much material about that it's like
Right.
he's a killer. And he
That's
actually
great.
looks like he might be a killer. He might have bodies under his basement.
He might be an actual killer.
Yeah, yeah. Like we don't know.
Well, if you want to make some money, you can share some of the bounty with Dog
Right.
if your buddy is running low on bail or something like that.
Yeah, Bobby, we're turning you into Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Man, this is great. Well, so you got to check out Zac Calden. You are really funny. You've got a great style. You got a great delivery. It's very natural, and your look is just it's a very unique look. It's a bounty hunter look, and it's a great it's kind of like a great backcountry look to you. And you got some ink that you're working. You're tatted up. I mean, you got a great style, man. You're a cool looking dude.
Thanks, man. I watched a lot of Cheech and Chong growing up, and actually, I got to see them live in 2011. They did a reunion tour and came to New Hampshire, which I said is like closer than a lot of stuff in Maine. So me and my buddies were sitting at my house, and we couldn't get a hold of anybody. And we're like, "Where is everybody?" And then we're like, "Oh, Cheech and Chong's today." And we called and got 3 of the last 4 tickets.
Oh my God, good for you. Now, did they do? Because I used to listen a ton of Cheech and Chong as a kid. Did they do some of their classics like Sister Mary Elephant, like some of the
Oh
old
yeah.
stuff? They did. Oh
Yeah,
my
they did
God.
like all their classics, like the Old Man and the Vata, like the Dogs. They
Oh
Cheech come
right.
out and played Earache My Eye. Like it was,
Oh my God. They brought it all back.
yeah. They were,
One
and
of my
I think Cheech opened by himself and talked about how like, or one of them talked about how they were just broke, so that's why they're back on tour. And then
no.
they did the very first bit they did together was the beginning of Up in Smoke. Like they had 2 chairs out, Cheech acting like he's cleaning off his car, Chong runs out from the side. I was like, no way.
They acted it out. Fantastic. There was a great bit they did because I used to listen to their albums. There was a great bit they did where I don't know if it was Chong or Cheech, but someone was like, um, I think he was like tied up to a cross or some tied up to a stick, and he's talking about how miserable it is, and he's like, somebody please itch my balls. He was going on, and he finally punished like it. It was just a great freaking. Those guys, man, were so freaking funny, man.
They were.
Classic 70s. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it was so cool having you on the show. We're not done yet because I have a little bit of the show that I do that I call repeat offenders, and which your friends might be, but it has nothing to do with that. So I'm going to ask you a question, 5 questions. You just give me the first answer that comes to your mind, right?
All right.
Just whatever comes to your mind. All right. I'm not
All
going to.
right.
All right. Here we go. Okay. Question number 1 for Zac Calden. If you could invite anyone over to your house for dinner, dead or alive, who would you have over to your house?
Mitch Hedberg.
Yes. Yes. Great. Love him.
Rest in peace, baby.
Rest in peace. God, what a tragic loss. That guy. Can you imagine the career he would have had?
Especially today.
Today. Oh, his humor just so he was just stellar comedian. All right, question number 2. If you could tour with any comic, you could be with him too, dead or alive, who'd you tour with?
Probably Pete Angelo. Like I said before, Pete's the man, dude. Love the guy.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, is he doing comedy right now in China, or did he just went to China?
He booked a few shows, but he's over there mostly for like a vacation, but he booked shows for his time over there.
I love it. Good for him. All right, here's question number 3. If you were a ghost, who would you spend the most time haunting?
My probably my boy Flaherty's kids, all of them.
Why, they troublemakers?
No, they're awesome.
Oh, okay.
They're awesome, but
you just mess with them.
They would like enjoy it, so it wouldn't even be like I was haunting them.
That's pretty good, man. All right, question number 4. 2 more questions. If a genie gave you one wish, what would you wish for, man?
To never have to work again?
Here. No kidding, right? Yeah, good wish. All right, last question. Zac Calden from Mexico, Maine. Here we go. If you had to wear a sign around your neck for the rest of your life, what the heck would it say?
Got any papers?
Yeah, well, now that pot's legal, you'd probably be a pretty popular dude. You probably have a lot of people go, yeah, I do.
Right? No doubt.
That's what. So are you saying that people smoke pot up in Mexico, Maine? It doesn't look like it up there. It looks like
I mean, yes. I went to the town meeting when they voted if they could have a dispensary in town.
Yeah.
And so did like 90 other people. We voted yes, and then 85 people left.
85 people left the town?
No, the vote. Like, we all went next door to smoke. And like 5 people stayed for the rest of the town meeting.
Oh, that's so funny. So is there a dispensary in town right now?
Yep, there's a couple.
No, it's too funny. It probably does pretty well.
Yeah, it's not bad. The guy who runs is doing it right.
He's doing okay, man. You're not getting that stuff at the Walmart, I'm assuming.
No, but the black market is still a thing. I got a bit. I wrote about that because I went back there. And if you have the time, go see your friends that are on the black market. They miss you.
That's right. Maybe you can figure out a way to make some pot out of that black sludge that came out of the mill.
It's not psychedelic. It's not. I tried.
Oh man, Zac Calden, it was such great having you on the show, man. I truly appreciate it, and best of luck to you up in Mexico, Maine. Are the winters pretty brutal up there? I imagine you got a little bit of snow up in.
Oh yeah.
Not down here in Connecticut, but you got some powder up there.
Yeah, it gets pretty bad. I mean, there was more powder back in the '80s, but it's not bad right now.
Not for you to do some snowboarding up at the
resort
there?
Yeah, I haven't been yet, but my back's not the best after a little fall. But
all right,
I mean. Winter's not as bad as it used to be, but it's like 50 degrees today. It was weird.
I know, it's crazy. Well, that's why they have the dispensary, man, to make sure your back feels nice,
right.
Nice and fine when you're doing your little snowboard.
That's right.
I love it, man. Well, best of luck to you, man. One day I hope we share a stage, and I want to come see you. But for those listening to the show, of course, the show will be posted on YouTube on at John Malkin Live. I will send Zach the link, and then he could share it with all his fans. But this guy is funny. He's got a great future in comedy, and he's in Mexico, Maine. When you're driving through on that one road town, you stop off and see him. Zach, my brother, thank you so much. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Good to be on. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. I'm John Malkin. You can find me at John Malkin Live on, let's see, I'm on Facebook, I guess Instagram. I'm mostly on Facebook. Oh, and YouTube, of course. And that was our last sit-down stand-up of 2024 with Zac Calden. We will see you in 2025. I am John Malkin, and we are out of here.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Sit Down Stand Up with John Malkin. Make sure to follow John on social media at John Malkin Live. See you next time, and don't forget to think while you laugh.